Perfect. So, hello, my name is Carla Casal, and I'll be your Master of Ceremonies today. I'm an Australian alumnus who did part of my PhD research at Curtin University in 2018 with a scholarship from DESE under the PhD internship program implemented by the Australian Academy of Science. Today, I'm the head of the international office at PUC Rio Grande do Sul and the coordinator of the Brazil-Australia Center for Internationalization of Education, hosted by PUC. The center is a concrete outcome from my PhD internship experience in Australia, and I must thank the Australian Academy of Science, DESE, the Australian Embassy in Brazil and its team, especially Matthew Johnston, Cassia Hare, Christina Elsner, and Luisa Neves, who believed in our proposal and helped it come true. And of course, PUC Rio Grande do Sul, my university, that supported it all. My hopes are that from events like this, more partnerships and results can be collected to benefit both countries. It is a pleasure to be here with you all today. Now I'd like to welcome you to the Brazil-Australia Virtual Research Collaboration event. This is the first event of this kind in such magnitude, engaging world-class researchers from both countries to discuss COVID-19 related topics. The purpose of this event is to bring together Australian and Brazilian researchers in a virtual forum to showcase research excellence from both countries, increase awareness of research systems, matchmake new partnerships, and discuss current opportunities for ongoing partnerships and collaboration. This event will take place over 6 sessions throughout the month of November 2021, and we wish you all have very pleasant and fruitful meetings and discussions together. Not to take much longer, now I'd like to invite the officials for their opening remarks. Each one will have 5 minutes to speak. All participants and the speakers' short bio are available at the Australian Academy of Science website, and a booklet will be sent by the end of the event to everyone. So first, I'll invite Professor John Shine, President of the Australian Academy of Science. Please, Professor Shine.
Thank you, Carla, and good evening, colleagues in Brazil, and good morning to those in Australia. My name is John Shine, and I'm President of the Australian Academy of Science. My personal area of research is in molecular biology. I'm very delighted to have been invited to be part of the opening session of the Australia-Brazil Virtual Research Collaboration, and to talk very briefly about the role of the Academy in this event. And of course, the importance of international scientific collaboration during and after our current challenges with COVID-19. We all know that modern science is built on collaborations that surpass national borders. This is particularly important as we search for innovative solutions for a lot of very pressing global challenges like pandemics, climate change, environmental pollution. The pan-national research effort in response to the COVID-19 challenge has really demonstrated the power of science, to which international collaboration is indispensable. This pandemic has seen an unprecedented level of international goodwill and scientific cooperation to combat the impact of the virus on the world, including, of course, working together rapidly to find vaccines. Academy of Sciences all over the globe have been playing their own part in national and regional initiatives, helping to ensure, very importantly, that trustworthy and credible information about the pandemic has been reaching as many people as possible. The Australian Academy of Science actively promotes Australian scientific capabilities internationally. It facilitates access to international research programs and identifies opportunities for collaboration and linkages with the international research community. It also contributes expertise and leadership in regional and global science networks, working cooperatively with Australian government departments and research agencies, universities, scientific societies, and other nations' science academies, including, of course, with our colleagues at the Brazilian Academy of Sciences. And I'm particularly pleased that Professor Luiz Devadovich, President of the Brazilian Academy, is attending today's event. The Academy organises bilateral international meetings, symposia and workshops to identify potential collaborative research opportunities in areas of mutual interest, as well as exchange and work on mobility programs for early, mid and late career researchers to establish a lot of strategic international partnerships at both a bilateral and a regional level. For many decades now, the Academy has actively assisted the Australian government to deliver some of its international activities. Last year, the Australian Department of Education, Skills and Employment invited the Academy to be a partner in these virtual COVID-19 related events between Australia and Brazil by assisting with the organisation of these meetings and the selection of the Australian participants. Brazil, of course, is an emerging science and technology power and is Australia's largest trading partner in Latin America. Australia and Brazil's relationship in science, technology and innovation has been greatly strengthened through a treaty between both countries for cooperation on science, technology and innovation. Hopefully that'll be ratified by Brazil in August of this year. Well, it was ratified by Brazil in August this year. A joint meeting under the treaty, hopefully, will be held sometime next year to bed down some of the collaborative work streams under the agreement. As I said earlier, the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the need for international scientific collaboration in both the public and the private sectors. The virtual events between Australia and Brazil provide strategic opportunities for both senior researchers and early career researchers from both countries to discuss and develop these bilateral collaborations. These could be in areas such as the development of diagnostics, vaccines and treatments, the role of One Health in the COVID-19 pandemic, and importantly, how to strengthen our health systems and the responses of those systems during a pandemic. Science has become more and more complex, and today no single scientist can understand all, no single institution can afford all of the facilities that are required to do cutting-edge science, and no single country alone can address the big global scientific challenges of our time. I would also like to congratulate all the organisations and researchers from both countries that have been involved in organising these important events. And I'm certain that as a result of these virtual meetings, research partnerships between Australia and Brazil will continue to grow and flourish. It's a great pleasure to be here to participate in this meeting today. So thank you, Carla.
Thank you, Professor Shine, for your words. Now pass the mic to Professor Odir Delagostin, President of Confap, which is in Portuguese, Conselho Nacional das Fundações Estaduais de Pesquisa. Please, Professor Odir.
Good evening to those in Brazil and good morning in Australia. It's a great pleasure to be here. Of course, I would prefer to be in Australia, talking in person and visiting your beautiful country. But as it's not possible, at least it's good that we are meeting virtually, and we are starting these important talks to lead to strong cooperations. I'm going to show you a little bit more about our research funding system in Brazil. I'm going to present you afterwards how the Brazilian research system is funded, and I'm sure that we'll be able to establish cooperation with multilateral or bilateral funding for important topics. These workshops that we've organized are specifically for COVID area, but Brazil and Australia already have strong cooperations in other areas as well. We hope that we can expand and include other areas of research and fund good and important research for both countries and for the whole world. I'd like to thank Luis support and thank you this event, and I'm sure that we will build on already strong cooperation and make it even stronger. So I wish you all a good event, and I hope to our following events, our following workshops, and especially in the closing workshop. Thank you.
We thank you very much, Professor Delagostin. Now I invite Mr. Tony Cook, Deputy Secretary of the Australian Department of Education, Skills and Employment.
Thank you, Carla, and thank you, Professor Shine and Professor Delagostin, for your earlier remarks. Good morning and good evening to everyone. Thank you for being here and joining us for this very exciting event. I'm delighted to be joining you here in Canberra. For those of us who are physically present in Canberra, I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today, the Ngunnawal people, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge the distinguished guests who have joined us today from Australia and Brazil. Brazilian Ambassador to Australia, His Excellency, welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning and this evening. It's great to have you here. The Australian Academy of Science President, John Shine. Thank you, John, for your earlier remarks. Confap President, Professor Oja Delagostin, thank you very much. It's great to have you involved in this very exciting event. And the Brazilian Academy of Science President, Luis Deverovich, it's great to have you join us as well. And also the Australian Ambassador to Brazil, His Excellency Tim Kane. It's my pleasure to be here on behalf of the Australian Government Department of Education, Skills and Employment. We are very excited about this research collaboration with Brazil. We're looking forward to the great outcomes that we know this collaboration will bring. It comes, as you know, at such a crucial time for international education, where our research and collaborative partnerships are more important than ever. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues across the world, we face enormous health, economic and environmental challenges. And so I'm delighted that this event has focused on COVID-19, and I thank all the researchers who are participating in the event and who are keen to explore the collaborations on this and other important related topics. By working in solidarity, sharing our knowledge and our expertise, Australia and Brazil can together contribute to creating innovative solutions to tackle these global challenges. Our experience in Australia in developing our world-class university and research sector is that international connections are vital. This is partly because bringing diversity to our student mix and ensuring that all students, including Australian students, are undertaking research that benefits from global perspectives and delivers solutions for an increasingly integrated world economy. But it's also vital to drive innovation. We all know that the best ideas come when we have a diverse range of contributors. Global research partners bring exactly that, new and different ideas that challenge assumptions and show that there are new ways to think about existing challenges. Like Brazil, Australia is an enormous and diverse country. As we work together towards COVID-19 recovery and continue to strengthen our research relationship, we should look to collaborate on topics of global importance that affect both our countries in addition to COVID-19 and related matters. Priority collaboration areas include water technology and management, agriculture, environmental conservation and biodiversity, renewable and bioenergy, biotechnology, big data, cybersecurity, and sustainable natural resource management. The importance of collaborative research relationships and the alignment of priorities with Brazil is why the department has placed such importance on reaching agreement on the Memorandum of Understanding with Confap. The MOU offers an opportunity for both countries to solidify this strong relationship and strategically expand it to provide our researchers with more opportunities to undertake collaborative and joint projects in the future. And the evidence of this is provided through this event and the strong interest in participating. Future collaborations that will come out of this event will help to break down barriers and forge better understanding of our respective research systems. The collaboration, networks, and contributions made to training the next generation of scientists is of significance to both our countries. And I would like to make a particular mention of the early and mid-career researchers who join us today, for whom I hope this research collaboration with Brazil will be easier as a result of this event and the MOU. And so I look forward to hearing about this ongoing collaboration and research partnership that will develop because of this event. And as our bilateral relationship continues to grow in strength and depth, we should embrace these opportunities to work together on our shared challenges for the benefit of our two countries and for the world. So thank you everyone for attending this event and marking this significant achievement for Australia and Brazil's research collaboration relationship. I wish you all the very best in your future research ventures. Thank you, Carla.
I thank you very much, Mr. Cook. Now I encourage the participants to interact in our chat, presenting yourselves, telling the university you come from, and anything else you might want to tell us. Now I'll pass the mic to Professor Luis Davidovich, President of the Brazilian Academy of Science. Please, Professor.
Thank you very much, Carla. It's a great pleasure to be here. And I'm very glad to see the Australian Academy of Sciences present here as well. And I want to thank everybody who was involved in the organization of this meeting. In fact, I'm honored to welcome the participants to this Australia-Brazil workshop, which is being hosted by the Australian Department of Education, Skills and Employment, the Brazilian National Council of State Funding Agencies, and has as partners the Australian Academy of Sciences and the Brazilian Academy of Sciences. When Professor Odir Delagostin, who is a member of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, approached the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, inviting us to be a partner in the organization of this meeting, together with the Australian Academy of Sciences, it was with enthusiasm that we embraced the proposal, not only due to the objective of the workshop, enhance Australia's and Brazil's bilateral research relationship in a topic of utmost importance, in fact, omnipresent in the world today, related to COVID-19, but also due to the possibility of stimulating the enhancement of scientific collaboration between our countries in several areas of knowledge. Furthermore, it is a pleasure for us to have the Australian Academy of Sciences in this partnership, as our academies actually share long ties in international scientific organizations like the Inter-Academy Partnership, where we have worked together in many joint initiatives, but also in bilateral initiatives. For instance, in May 2019, the Brazilian Academy of Sciences promoted an event in partnership with the Australian Embassy in Brazil, the Australia-Brazil Roundtable on increasing participation in women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, that's STEM. And that was a very successful workshop on a very important theme for both our countries. Of course, these are troubled times for humanity. COVID-19 has shown that unless we share the vaccine globally, we'll continue to share the virus. And also that in the present global society, one is safe only if everybody is safe. Scientific collaboration is essential to tackle many global challenges, not just this pandemic, but also be prepared for future pandemics. Many other challenges involving climate change, sustainable use of biomes and water resources, food security, inequalities between countries and inside countries, and many other challenges. And it's very important to have scientific collaboration all over the globe on these global issues. So having the perspective of this bilateral collaboration with the Australian Academy of Sciences, between Brazil and Australia more generally, it's very exciting, and I think it's very important for both our countries. I wish to participants a fruitful discussion, and above all, that we can come out of this meeting identifying opportunities to enhance friendship and scientific ties between our countries. You know, science, besides being very important for the daily life of humanity, has also other attributes. Science breaks through political barriers. The language of science is universal, and it allows people to talk to each other independently of political arguments, political disputes, and therefore we do encourage multilateral and bilateral collaboration all over the world, and especially this collaboration with Australia is extremely welcome. You know that if we look at the papers published by Brazilian scientists with other countries, Australia is in a very good position. I think it's the 9th position in terms of number of papers published. If you look at the impact index, it goes up, actually. The impact, I think it goes to the 7th place or 6th place. And in fact, the collaboration with Australia is more intense for Brazil than the collaboration with many countries in Latin America. So we welcome this workshop, and I hope that this is just the first step towards discussing many other themes of common interest. Thank you very much.
I must thank you very much, Professor Davidovich. Now, I'm most happy to invite the Australian Ambassador to Brazil, Mr. Tim Kane.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla. Good evening, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you for being with us today. It is a pleasure to join you in participating in this Australia-Brazil virtual research collaboration event. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge in particular Professor Odir Delagostin, President of Confap, my counterpart, His Excellency Mr. Mauricio Lirio, Brazilian Ambassador to Australia, Mr. Tony Cook, Deputy Secretary of the Australian Department of Education, Skills and Employment, Professor John Shine, President of the Australian Academy of Science, Mr. Luis Davidovich, President of the Brazilian Academy of Science, and the Brazilian and Australian officials who have made this event possible. This event comes at a critical time for international cooperation on education and research. Our collaborative partnerships have never been more important. As the COVID pandemic continues to have an enormous impact across the world, we face huge economic, environmental, and other challenges. By working together, sharing knowledge and expertise, Australia and Brazil can contribute to the innovative solutions that will help us tackle those challenges. Australia and Brazil have a close and growing relationship with many shared interests. As continental democracies, we are global players in agriculture, mining, and health. And, and we share a commitment to a rules-based international order, effective multilateral processes, and open economies. Australia is also proud and honoured to host a growing number of Brazilian students who contribute to and enhance our education and research sectors and our society. Brazilians are the largest cohort of students in Australia outside of Asia. Brazil is Australia's largest education partner in Latin America and our 6th largest education partner globally. We currently host over 19,000 Brazilian students engaged in a broad range of studies. It's our hope that they will create opportunities to share knowledge, innovation, and cooperation well beyond their current fields of expertise. According to the Brazilian Educational and Language Travel Association's 2020 International Education Market Survey, Australia is one of the top 3 destination countries for Brazilian students. We very much look forward to welcoming more Brazilian students and researchers. We also have a shared interest in increasing science and research cooperation between our countries, including through the recently ratified Australia-Brazil Science, Technology and Innovation Agreement. The agreement recognises Australia and Brazil share a range of research interests and priorities, which has made Brazil Australia's largest research partner in Latin America in terms of joint research publications, and our 15th largest globally. We both have talented researchers, and it's our commitment to share the best of that research collaboration and inspiration to drive the relationship further. Australia is recognised globally for its high quality research. With less than 0.5% of the world's population, Australia contributes to more than 4% of all scientific development internationally. I'm certain this virtual research collaboration event and our strong partnership with Confap will make a considerable contribution to Australia-Brazil research and open new pathways for ongoing collaboration. I look forward to hearing about and supporting new research partnerships that will emerge from the activities over the next 3 weeks. I would like to express my particular thanks to the teams who have done so much behind the scenes to make this event happen. We could not have done it without you. I would also like to thank our Brazilian friends for the confidence you place in Australia, our institutions, and the tremendous contribution you make to a better Australia. I wish everyone much success during this important event, and I look forward to making collaborative research a cornerstone of our bilateral relationship. Thank you.
I thank you very much, Ambassador. Now I invite the Brazilian Ambassador to Australia, Mr. Mauricio Lirio, for his opening remark. Please, Ambassador.
Thank you, Carla. Good morning to those in Australia. Good evening to those in Brazil. First of all, I would like to thank the Department of Education and Confap for the invitation to participate in this event. I would like to congratulate Deputy Secretary Tony Cook, Professor Odir Delagostin, Professor John Shine, Professor Luis Davidovich, for organizing this first Australia-Brazil virtual research collaboration. I would also like to greet my dear colleague, Ambassador Tim Kane, Ambassador of Australia in Brazil. For me, it's a great honor to be here in the presence of the Brazilian and Australian researchers that will take part in this event. They will share their knowledge and experiences in order to foster opportunities for mutual collaboration. If anything, the coronavirus pandemic has taught us, and of course we should have learned that much long before, that only international cooperation can help us address challenges that are global in their nature. If we did manage to alleviate the suffering of so many people and to restrain the already huge death toll during this horrific pandemic, we owe that mostly to the medical, scientific, and academic communities. That's why I express my sincere and profound admiration for the work of all researchers involved in fighting COVID-19 and so many other diseases. This first Australia-Brazil virtual research collaboration is important both in symbolic as well as in very practical terms. As mentioned before, it is the first activity organized within the framework of the MOU between DESE and Confap. At the same time, it will focus on ways to strengthening our health systems, responses against COVID-19, on the development of medical treatments and therapies, and on broader environmental questions related to COVID-19. For Brazil and Australia, it is a way to promote partnerships among our researchers and scientists, and to generate developments that will help our societies to better face health challenges like COVID-19. For that reason, we can consider this event a landmark in the scientific cooperation between Brazil and Australia. I sincerely hope and will contribute to the best of my efforts to help make this event the first of a long series of meetings of the Australia-Brazil virtual research collaboration. I believe this initiative of joining Brazilian and Australian researchers should be replicated and take place every year, extended if possible to other key areas in public health, as well as in environmental protection, the management of water resource. Deputy Secretary Tony Cook has mentioned those subjects, and also sustainability of agriculture. I am convinced that cooperation in research, science, technology, and innovation has to be one of the priorities in the relations between Australia and Brazil. As mentioned before here, the Brazilian Congress has recently ratified the bilateral agreement for cooperation in science, technology, and innovation. The agreement provides an excellent framework for further joint work between Brazil and Australia. Yesterday, I was talking with Ambassador Tim Kaine exactly about this and the need that we have to implement as soon as possible, the agreement. And one of those measures is the establishment of the Committee on Common Work. And I hope we are going to do that because it's an excellent framework for the cooperation between Brazil and Australia. Brazilian scientific publications make up 2% of the world academic production and 48% of Latin American production. Brazil is a leader in our region, occupying the 13th place in the world. One of the main areas where Brazil has proven competitive and has earned international recognition is the health sector. Brazil's important achievements in this field ranges from the high quality research of institutions like Fiocruz, Butantan, Evandro Chagas, and to the emergence of the so-called new health techs. Health startups have grown significantly in the last few years in Brazil. In 2015, we had around 17 health startups in Brazil. Today, there are more than 500. Many Brazilian health techs work at the frontier of science in areas such as the application of genomic research and artificial intelligence to health-related challenges. I have seen in the chat of this conversation that we have people from genomic research in Brazil, and I'm very happy to see this. Several Brazilian startups accelerators have launched initiatives related to the coronavirus pandemic, and more than 50 Brazilian health techs are involved in the fight against COVID-19. Well, in 2020, in spite of the pandemic, Brazil was able to hold virtual bilateral meetings like this one with the United States, Sweden, Germany, and the United Kingdom. In 2021, we have already met with European Union, Canada, Norway, and Argentina. Brazilian scientists are involved in the 5 areas of research necessary to address the COVID-19 pandemic: new diagnostic technologies, vaccines and medicines, genetic sequencing of viruses, artificial intelligence applied to medicines, treatments and studies on the overlap of coronavirus with other diseases, such as tuberculosis. Along the lines of our strong bilateral cooperation in education, I believe our scientific partnership is very promising. In addition to the presence of a large number of Brazilian students in Australia, Ambassador Tim Kaine mentioned the number of 19,000, but before the pandemic, we had 27,000 Brazilian students here in Australia. These partnerships between Brazilian and Australian educational institutions have increased significantly. And I think this is a very good omen for the future cooperation between our 2 countries. Well, for all those reasons, I wish you all a good research week. You can count on the support and cooperation of the Brazilian Embassy in Australia to foster this important partnership between Brazil and Australia. Thank you very much, Carla. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Mr. Mauricio Liu. Thank you all for such inspiring words. Indeed, this virtual research collaboration event is a milestone in the scientific collaboration between Australia and Brazil. Well, now we'll move on to the keynote speakers of this first session. The idea is to shed some light to the research systems of each country in order to better understand commonalities and opportunities to connect through joint research projects. First, I would like to invite Ms. Karen Sandercock, First Assistant Secretary of the Australian Government Department of Education, Skills and Employment. Please, Ms. Sandercock, you may have the mic now. You have 15 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Carla. Good morning and good evening, everybody. And thank you for the opportunity to talk with you today on Australia's research system. I would very much like to follow Mr. Tony Cook's welcome and acknowledgement of our esteemed guests and research community. And Carla, thank you for sharing your experience when you opened our session in talking about your collaboration through the Australian government's dedicated support for Australia-Brazil collaboration. I'm delighted to hear you had such a positive experience. I'm very pleased to be talking to you today because it was nearly 12 months ago that I had the pleasure of signing the Memorandum of Understanding with Confap, with Professor Delagostin, that has brought us to this point. And in spite of the difficulties of the pandemic, we've managed to remain connected with one another through our virtual community. And I'm very much hoping that the relationships that are going to be formed through this virtual research collaboration will be long lasting. So today, my job is to give you an overview of Australia's research landscape. And of course, Professor Delagostin will do so for Brazil. Very keen that we work together to help give you a shared understanding of the research systems that will provide the context for your collaboration through the virtual research collaboration for the next few weeks. So I'll give a little bit of a snapshot of research in Australia by talking about the what, the who, the how of our research system and the current state of research between Australia and Brazil, and a little bit about how research is supported here in Australia. So to go to the first slide, I want to put the size and scale into context for you. Australia has 43 public and private universities spread around the country, across our cities and across regional Australia. And in addition, we have numerous hospitals and other organisations that undertake research. For example, CSIRO, the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation, an agency of the Australian government that contributes to a diverse range of research. Others, equally well known, are specialised institutes, such as WEHI and the Garran Institute. Next slide, please. In the most recent Excellent Research for Australia National Report, which is undertaken for government by the Australian Research Council, Australia's most published areas of research were in medicine, engineering and biological sciences. And within these fields, the vast majority of our university research was deemed to be conducted at, above, or even well above world standard. It's a small example, but demonstrates the depth of high quality researchers that can be found all over Australia. And of particular note, I'm very pleased to say that when it comes to the calibre of our researchers, one of the VRC session conveners later in coming weeks, Professor Eddie Holmes, was just this week awarded the Australian Prime Minister's Science Prize for his work sequencing the genome of the COVID-19 virus. A great example of Australian research having real-world impact and something to be particularly proud of. But more broadly, between 2016 and 2020, our research sector produced nearly 600,000 research publications across all fields of research, or nearly 3.8% of global output, which is not bad for a country of 26 million people. And of those publications, more than half were with an international partner, and over 10,000 of those were with at least one Brazilian partner. Now, that may not sound like much, but to put it in context, again, Australian researchers collaborated with people from over 200 different countries. And if you listed all of those countries from highest to lowest, according to research output with Australia, Brazil would be near the top of that list, ranking as Australia's 15th largest, I should say, research partner. Now, this shows the shared commitment to research collaboration, which can only grow from here. So I want to talk a little bit more about the potential for what comes next. Next slide, please. Back in 2007, there were only 17 formal research partnerships between Australia and Brazil. A decade later, that's grown to 135 formal partnerships, as opposed to the informal collaboration we know also goes on. It shows that the Brazil-Australian relationship has already made strong progress through researcher to research links. To date, our main collaborations, medicine, physics and astronomy, and agricultural and biological sciences, these three fields alone make up over 40% of our joint research publications. And across that 2016-2020 period, when we worked together, our collective citation impact was significantly higher than when we worked individually, as Professor Davidovich has already acknowledged. While our category normalised citation impact, or CNCI, was 1.48 for Australia and Brazil's 0.83, when we worked together, our joint publication CNCI jumped dramatically to 4.09. It really shows the potential for Australian and Brazilian cooperation in research. And of course, that's what we've seen and recognised over the last 10 to 15 years and sought to formalise, including through the Memorandum of Understanding between Confap and the Department of Education, Skills and Employment. We've seen that working together, especially on such areas of research like medicine, we collectively have much greater impact, and I'm very confident of the growth that we're going to see from here. Next slide. To come to funding of Australia's research system, I want to touch a little bit on how the federal government supports research, so you have some sense of our system. The Commonwealth operates what we call a dual funding system for university research, made up of research block funding or block grants and of competitive research funding. Together, these two sources support the sustainability of our high quality research system and encourage the continued research excellence that we seek. Research block grants are allocated to universities for the systemic costs of research. They include the Australian Government's Research Training Program, which provides funding to support domestic and international students doing research at doctorate and research master's level, and the Research Support Program that funds the systemic costs of research, not supported directly through competitive and other grants, be that in the form of libraries, laboratories, consumables, computing support, salaries for support and technical staff. Providing funding under this dual model ensures a level of stability and continuity in Australian research, and that our universities have the capacity to pursue high quality, cutting edge research. And it's complemented by the nationally competitive research programs through the Australian Research Council and the Australian Health and Medical Research Council, amongst others. And those programs are awarded after highly competitive grant application processes, which contain a strong element of peer review from researchers who are considered amongst the foremost experts in those fields. Now, these two priorities, research sustainability and research excellence, are what drive the programs that the Australian government supports. Next slide, please. To touch very quickly in a little more detail on a couple of the initiatives my department administers, we have a strategic university research fund, reform fund I should say, which encourages universities to undertake projects in priority areas that have a strong link to local communities and works alongside the research and industry sectors under the National Infrastructure Investment Plan and Research Roadmap that we operate. And complementing this, we support work research by providing funding through a national collaborative research infrastructure strategy for high quality research infrastructure, which is open for use by all Australian researchers and their international partners. And this national research infrastructure provides critical services and facilities across the whole spectrum of research fields. Facilities like digital infrastructure, supercomputers, platforms for urban research and environmental information, networked data stores and services for nationally significant research, as well as the National Research Cloud, offering digital tools and virtual laboratories. We also support observing systems, research into food, water resources, environment, biological security, and many other issues that go to the challenges of the day. Our National Research Infrastructure Strategy is designed to recognise that no one researcher or institution can alone solve the problems of the world's most challenging problems, and that cooperation and collaboration is really necessary on a national and indeed international scale. Other government departments, such as our counterparts in the Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources, play a strategic funding role. The Cooperative Research Centre program funds industry to partner with research institutions to solve industry-identified problems in the short and longer term. And this, in a similar vein to the National Research Infrastructure Strategy, shows there's value in partnering beyond what any one organisation alone can provide by bringing the business community in to help Australian institutions work on the big issues, including agriculture, health and others. Perhaps of interest as well for you today is the Department's funding of the Global Innovation Strategy. This sits under the Australian Government's National Innovation and Science Agenda. It provides programs that aim to promote global engagement on entrepreneurship and innovation and build strong international research and business connections and collaboration. I could go on, but I think this gives you an idea of the many ways in which the government at least supports the Australian research system. The private sector across industry and not-for-profit organisations within Australia and beyond also plays a significant part. What we aim to deliver, of course, is a research system which provides brilliant basic research, but is also able to work with business to translate this research into the breakthrough products, new business ideas, which will grow our economy, strengthen our society, and indeed deliver global benefits. To come to the last slide, perhaps a common thread throughout many of the funding streams I've mentioned today is the link to industry and research commercialisation. Last year, a survey of commercial outcomes from public research undertaken by Knowledge Commercialisation Australasia showed that our institutions generated substantial dollars in commercialisation revenue, leading to new spin-out companies and new startups. The Walter and Eliza Hall Institute, or WEHI, that I touched on earlier, is a fantastic such example of this in our health sector. And I'm delighted that a WEHI representative is joining us for this event later in the program. Ultimately, the more our institutions are connected globally, as well as embedded within our communities, the greater the outcomes we'll see from our research community. We already have a world-class research system in Australia. Our challenge now is to forge and strengthen the connections with others, such as key partners like Brazil, so that we can harness our collective knowledge and experience for the challenges ahead. So on that note, I'll stop here. I hope I've given you some sense of Australia's research system. Like Brazil's, and I'm sure many other countries, it's a vast network across government, universities, industry, researchers and the wider communities. But it's all about how we support our research system for stability while encouraging excellence, innovation and community-minded impact. This event is another such way that I hope will bring those objectives to fruition. And I think our discussions so far highlight just how much Australia and Brazil benefit when we work together. And I'm very pleased and reassured to see events like this happening despite the challenges that we are facing. Congratulations to all involved in organising, and very much look forward to your successful cooperation in future. Thank you, Carla. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Ms. Suncock. Now, I would like to call Professor Delagostin once again, this time to explore the Brazilian research system. Please, Professor Delagostin, you have 15 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you, Carla. I'm going to share my screen. Just a second here. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit Brazilian research funding system. And while Karen Sandercock was talking, I've here. And I'd like to start by showing this, and I apologize, it's in Portuguese, but it shows the growth of Brazilian scientific output in the last 20 years. And it's Brazil published 15,000 articles, and now it's almost reaching basically, it grows as the postgraduate system also grows. Here we have the number of masters and PhD graduated each year. So it grows the same way as the postgraduate system. And Brazil has already a very strong postgraduate system. And I've also added pieces of scientific publication in Brazil and in Australia, and we can see that parallel. So Australia is ahead, and in 2020, Brazil has the same production, scientific output, the same number of scientific outputs as Australia in 2014. But it's still growing steadily. I'm going to talk about Brazilian research funding system, and the main actors are at federal level, CAPES, CNPq, and FINEP, and at state level, our state funding agencies, and I'm going to talk about Confap. It's the council, the National Council of the State Research Funding. State funding agencies, we call them FAPs for short. So CAPES is the abbreviation, superior level staff improvement. The current president is Professor Cláudia Mancini Queda de Toledo. It's linked to the Ministry of Education, and its main activities are assessment of graduation programs, funding of scholarships, masters, PhDs, postdocs, and promotion of international scientific cooperation. It funds scholarships not only in Brazil, but also abroad. NPQ, the National Council for Scientific and Technological Development agency. Its current president is to the Ministry of Science and Technology. And it was founded the same year as CAPES, in 1951, and has a leading role in conducting and formulating research about technology, science, and also innovation. The goal of CNPq is to promote science, technology, innovation, the formulation of their policies, which thereby will lead to the taking the frontier in knowledge, national sovereignty, and sustainable development. In terms of funding, CAPES is responsible for about 75% of scholars and PhD students. CNPq is responsible for about 13%. And the FAPEs are responsible for about scholarships. But CNPq is also responsible funds for scientific for projects, for research projects. CAPES does not do the scholarships. In Brazil, we have a unique system, I would say. We have agencies that fund scholarships and research projects. They are not always connected. And we also have our funding agency for studies and projects. Its current president is General Valdemar Barroso Neto. And FINEP's objective is to act in the whole chain of innovation in action with the strategic and high impact for the sustainable development of Brazil. Today from Brasilia, I'm here in a hotel in Brasilia. Trip to Brasilia that I took this year, and I had a Ministry of Science and Technology together with the president of FINEP, and it was a very productive meeting. But I'm talking about FINEP. FINEP supports all the science, technology, and innovation cycle, from basic research to innovative development of products, processes, and services. But in basic research, it's not very it's not a strong area for FINEP. It's more funds for CNPq and for FAPs. Grants for science and technology institutions, grants for companies, research between research institutes and companies, investment funds and equity, and also loans for business competitiveness. The areas of science, technology, innovation that FINEP supports are all range of technology readiness levels. So basic research, technological development, prototyping, and system development. And now Confap. I'm the current president of Confap, the Brazilian National Council of Funding Agencies. Our mission is to represent all FAPs at federal level. Our main strategies, we have a very high capillarity, wide spectrum of actions and knowledge of regional differences. Representation, we have seats in the most important science, technology, and innovation organizations committees. We have a role as a political action at Brazilian executive and legislative branches, and we are very strong in national and international partnerships. And that's why we are establishing this partnership with Australia, and similar to partnerships we have with many other countries, where the FAPs, the state funding agencies, support the researchers from Brazil, and agencies from abroad, from other countries, support the researchers in the respective countries. So this is the map of Brazil, and as you can see, we have 26 state districts, so 27 units, and at the moment we have 26 FAPs, apart from the which still doesn't have a research funding agency. all other states have a research funding agency. FAPESP is the largest one with the largest budget, but all the other states also invest in research, invest in training of human resources for research and innovation. As a council for these state funding agencies, we all of them. So by signing an agreement with DESE, this agreement will cover agencies. We provide research support. We provide financial support to research projects and innovation projects, organization and participation in seminars, workshops, and in the country and abroad, mobility of researchers, and scholarships in different levels from talks. In a lower number than CAPS scholarships. So in summary, this is the landscape of Brazilian research and innovation funding system. To the Ministry of Education, which funds scholarships. We have CNPq and FINEP linked technology and innovations. CNPq acting mainly in grants for scientific research, and FINEP providing grants for also for scientific research, for grants for science and technology infrastructure in universities and research institutes, investment and equity. And at regional level, we have 26 FAPs. For example, FAPEMIG and all the others, providing scholarships, grants for scientific research, also to small companies to promote innovation in small companies. We also have to mention the role of ABC, our Brazilian Academy of Science, which current president is Professor Luiz Davidovich. ABC was founded in 1916. It's a non-profit, non-governmental, independent entity which operates as an honorific scientific society, and as when requested to do so, to perform technical studies. Its focus is in the scientific development among Brazilian scientists and the interaction of these with research nations. So Brazilian Academy of Sciences is a very important in this ecosystem in Brazil. It doesn't provide funding, but it has a very important role in formulating political policies, formulating policies in Brazil. And we also have SBPC. Sorry, it's wrong here. It's Brazilian Society for the Advancement of Science, which is a non-profit organization with focused on promoting scientific and technological advances and further in education and culture in Brazil. Its establishment in 1948, it has been playing a key role in expanding and enhancing the system. The organization represents approximately 140 scientific societies and over 5,000 active members. The SBPC is actively involved in debates over the issues that define the path of science, technology, and innovation in Brazil. Together with Confap and other organizations, we fight almost every day in order to have a better funding for research in Brazil. We currently are going through a kind of a crisis, a shortage of money for research in Brazil. But we hope that in the near future, we'll overcome these problems, these difficulties that we're facing nowadays, and we'll be able to increase the funding and therefore also increase cooperations with researchers from other countries. Differently from Australia, which has more than 40% of publications with authors from other countries. In Brazil, this number is about 29% only. So we need to increase international collaboration, and that I'm sure that will be very important to Brazil also to increase the impact of the research that is done here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Delagostin. Now that we had presentations from both countries' research systems, I would like to encourage participants to send questions through the Q&A functionality of Zoom platform, or prepare your questions for our upcoming session on questions and answers. The presentations will be available at the Australian Academy of Science website. By the end of the event, we'll send all the participants a booklet containing short bios and contacts as well. But before that, I would like to invite Mr. Cassia Hare, Counselor for Education and Science in Brazil, to present the program overview for the Brazil-Australia Virtual Research Collaboration, along with Ms. Flavia Cerqueira, International Cooperation Advisor at Confap. Please, Cassia and Flavia, the floor is yours, and you both have 15 minutes to your presentation.
Thank you so much, Carla. Sorry, just trying to get my screen shared. So thank you so much, Carla, and thank you everyone for being here today at this event. My name is Cassia Hare, and I'm the Counsellor for Education and Science at the Australian Embassy in Brazil.
I am Flavia Cerqueira, the International Advisor for International Cooperation of Confap.
So Confap, the AAS and the Australian government have been working together to organise this event, and Flavia and I are going to take you through an overview of the sessions and how they'll work over the next 2 weeks. As Professor Giantoni discussed earlier, this collaboration event follows the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between DESE and Confap. The aim of that MOU and of the next 2 weeks is to create stronger links between Australia and Brazil's research systems. We hope that you're able to walk away from this event with more understanding of both systems and where there are opportunities for you to engage, ideally including directly finding a research partner or project during the thematic sessions. And it's really great to see that so many people have already been introducing themselves and connecting in the chat function already. Our collaboration event is going to be held across 5 days. Following this opening session, there'll be 3 thematic sessions held next week. During the EOI and registration process, you'll have been selected for one of these sessions. Each session is only going to have 20 senior researchers, 10 Australian and 10 Brazilian, as well as 2 conveners and a number of early to mid-career researchers. We've deliberately kept the numbers quite small to allow for more interaction and collaboration, so please only attend the session that you're allocated to. And then on our last day, we'll have a closing session and an assessment session. At the closing, we'll hear back from the session conveners on what was discussed the week before, as well as more information on how to apply for research funding in both Australia and Brazil. So hopefully all the projects that have come out of this can be taken forward. And then following the closing, we'll have an assessment session. As this is a really new type of event for us, we want your feedback on how it went. And any feedback that you can give us will be really helpful for us in designing future events, because we want to keep holding these sorts of things to try and bring more Australian and Brazilian researchers together. We'll now run through the thematic sessions and how they'll work in a bit more detail. So our first thematic session, which will be held next Tuesday night in Brazil and Wednesday morning in Australia, is on health system responses and public policies. The conveners for this session will be Professor Marcos Vinicius Guimarães de la Cerda from Fiocruz AM and Professor Jodie McVernon from the University of Melbourne. The breakout rooms for the session will include medical protocols and practices, virus tracing and communication, nutrition and burden of disease, modelling policy systems, data-based policies, and Indigenous and vulnerable groups. The second thematic session, which will be held next Wednesday night in Brazil and Thursday morning in Australia, is on medical treatment and therapies. The conveners for the session are Professor Brendan Crabb from the Burnett Institute and Professor Camila Ingiani de Oliveira from Fiocruz BA. The breakout rooms for the session are going to include vaccine production, post-hospitalisation treatment, mental and emotional health, antimicrobial resistance, immunity to COVID, and ethics in treatment.
Thank you, Cassia. I will continue the presentation. So our last thematic session, which will be held next Thursday night in Brazil and Friday morning in Australia, is One Health. The conveners for these sessions will be Professor Fernando Spilk from Fevali and Professor Eddie Holmes from the University of Sydney. The breakout rooms for these sessions will include zoonosis control, water and sewage, livestock and food security, the human-animal environment nexus, anthropic actions and diseases, and foodborne pathogenesis. Please, can you move, Cassia? For each thematic session, the conveners will make a short presentation on the relevant research and trends related to the themes. The group will then move into breakout rooms. We will have briefly outlined the topics, and these are also available in the program. The participants will choose the breakout rooms you want to participate during the meeting. There will be 2 45-minute sessions for breakout rooms. During each session, there will be 3 breakout rooms with topics, and as well, 1 room specifically for early mid-career researcher. However, the early mid-career researchers can also join any of the other rooms. Each breakout room will need to nominate a scribe to make some notes at the end of the sessions of 3 to 5 key points discussed. These notes will need to be sent to the organizers with a day of the thematic session. These will be collated for the conveners to use when speaking during the closing session. Can you move, please? Our expectations from the events are that everyone participates fully and productively in the thematic sessions and the breakout rooms. The participants will have the opportunity to find potential partners and projects from the sessions, and that emerging projects will have the opportunity for support under the Confap and DESE MU. It's also expected that the participants meet each other outside the official program. Please, Cassie, sorry. If you have any question or difficulty during the event, you can contact me or Farhana from AES. Our email address is on the screen and also available in the program on the website. These are the email address you should send the notes from the breakout rooms session as well. Please. Thank you. Thank you again for coming today. We are very excited about this event and hope to find it productive and have opportunities to make new partners.
Thank you very much, Cassia. Thank you, Flavia, for bringing light to the Brazil-Australia Virtual Research Collaboration Program. So now please participants, send your questions via chat or raise your hands via Zoom platform function, and I'll give you the opportunity to ask the questions directly to the presenters. But before that, comes a very important part of the event, the official picture. So I would like to ask you all to open your cameras. Please, I request all participants to open your cameras for a group photo. It will take a few minutes and I'm going to count to 3. And then please just give me your best smile. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. The official picture was done. We can see so many ideas and topics for potential collaborative research posted in the chat. We do hope you can connect to peers during the thematic sessions and have direct conversations afterwards to explore potential joint projects. The coordination team will be most happy to help guide you through the funding opportunities shared by Ms. Karen Sandrcock and Professor Odir Delagostini as well. One of the questions that I have here from the chat is that, how do I submit a collaborative research project between Australia and Brazil for funding under the Confap MOU?
I can start, Carla, if you'd like, and then we can hand over maybe to Professor Odir. So what we're hoping comes out of this is that participants will jointly identify some research topics for collaborative activities. And then once you've identified those activities and how the Australians and the Brazilians will both contribute to the project, there's a 2-part process. The first is to apply through the Australian research system, which Karen outlined earlier today. So we have both the competitive grants program with the Australian Research Institute, as well as the National Health and Medical Research Council, which are both our national bodies, as well as the block funding grant. And there are many other ways that you can access research funding within Australia, which I'm sure your Australian participants will be happy to guide you through. And once the research has been secured from the Australian side, then we move to working with Confap to identify funding. And I'll hand over to Professor Odir to take us through that process.
Yes, that's right. So first of all, the project has to have a secured from Australia. And then the researcher from Brazil can approach the FAP from his state and request information on how to apply and the guidelines, all the guidelines for applying and an assessment of the project. If the FAP then approves the funding, it will fund going to be done in Brazil. So there will be no money transfer. Each partner will fund it's part of the project. Okay. I don't know if Flavia would like to comment on that. Yes. Okay.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have another question here. Dr. Anna Gorinil was put in the Health System Responses and Public Policy session, but her research interests are also focused on One Health. Will she be able to attend and participate in the discussions in the One Health session? How about the young scientists who were nominated by her?
I don't know how to answer that.
Maybe
It's
Cassia and Flavia?
It's a trick question, but it's possible to, if you mind to send me an email, you can see if you can allocate to you in this session too.
If there's not an opportunity to participate in all the sessions, and we know a lot of you will have interests that cross over many of the themes, which is why we're going to put together the booklet at the end with everyone's contact details. So we hope that even outside of the sessions that we've put together for you, you'll be able to reach out to each other and make connections, and hopefully hear in that closing session some of the discussions that were had across all three thematic sessions.
All right, there's another question here, Cassia and Flavia. I know you explained, but there's still a doubt about it. How will the thematic sessions work in the breakout rooms, especially in the breakout rooms, please?
Sorry, can you repeat? Carla, can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, sure. How will the thematic sessions work in the breakout rooms, specifically, especially in the breakout rooms?
Thank you. We suggested the name of the breakout rooms. The name of each breakout rooms is available in the website. On the time of the session, that will be available the room, and the participants will choose the one they want to participate. We expect that will be also inside of each room one representative of the organization, but this person will not interfere in the discussion. And it's expected that the group of participants, researchers, decide the one who will take the notes and send for the organization, but there will be no mediators or facilitator to the discussion. The researchers are free to find the best common ground between them for that topic. It's also expected that the participants be present in the both sessions of the breakout rooms. Thank you.
Another question, Cassia and Flavia. If someone else, other researchers at universities might be interested in collaborating in this session and were not invited, can we invite them to participate in the sessions?
Sorry, it's because we have unlimited from the Zoom capacity of participants of the event, and we decided to establish small groups for a productive discussion. But after the event, you can share the contact, or even though to find a way to discuss with Australian partners possibility to include this person.
Thank you, Flavia, very much. Anyway, it is important to mention that all participants will have the booklet, and in this booklet, it contains actually the contact and the research short bios as well, the researchers' short bios. So I think it's going to work well. I think that's, do we have someone raised the hand and I couldn't see it? Would you do that again? I think it's Annie. Right? If someone else wants to have a question, please send by chat or raise your hand and I just make sure. Yes, that's it. Dr. Remy Alderini, sorry if I mispronounced your name, please. just unmute. We have to give her permission. People from our backup here give permission to Remy or Rini to talk. Oh, it was a mistake. That's okay. That's the way it works online, you know? That's okay. Anyway, if you have any other question, you can send by mail to Flavia and Cassia as well. All the information will be provided and you will have that in the booklet as well. If you didn't have the chance to submit your questions or we didn't answer exactly your doubt, please don't hesitate to contact us through the emails farhana.raman@science.org.au. We are gonna write that on the chat. I think it is better this way. So unfortunately, the system was not ready for everyone to open the cameras. So we are gonna take group photos during the thematic sessions next week. And we do apologize for that. So the emails are gonna be sent at the message function as well as the detailed program. We'll send you prior to this opening session and for the thematic sessions as well. I think we are just coming to the end of our event. It was a lovely evening here in Brazil today and a beautiful morning there in Australia as we could meet the participants of the Brazil-Australia Virtual Research Collaboration event and hear a bit from the organizers and officials from both governments. It is time to close this opening session and thank you all for your presence and participation today. We look forward to meeting you all again next week, according to the thematic sessions that you have been invited for. Just to remind you all, the thematic sessions dates will be thematic session 1, health system responses and public policies, on Tuesday 9th at 6 p.m. Brazilian time, which is Wednesday 10th at 8 a.m. Canberra time. Thematic session 2, medical treatments and therapies on Wednesday 10th at 6 p.m. Brazilian time, which is Thursday 11 at 8 a.m. Canberra time. And thematic session 3, One Health, on Thursday 11th at 6 p.m. Brazilian time, which is Friday 12th at 8 a.m. Canberra time. Please make the best of your time during this event, and I'll be seeing you all again at the closing session planned for the Wednesday 17th, 6 p.m. Brazilian time, which is Thursday 18th, 8 a.m. Canberra time. So that's it for all today. Good night in Brazil, good morning in Australia. Enjoy your time, take care and be safe. Thank you very much for your participation.